It was a regular Tuesday morning, and the sun was shining brightly as the mother hurried through her daily routine. She had a lot on her plate: work deadlines, household chores, and errands to run. But today, she decided to take a break from her busy schedule to do something special. Her son had been asking her to visit his school for weeks, and she finally made up her mind to surprise him during lunch. She packed a small lunchbox with his favorite snacks, dressed casually, and headed to the school with a smile on her face. The school was a short drive away, and as she parked her car, she felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. She hadn't been to the school in a while, and she was eager to see how her son was doing. She walked through the gates, greeted the security guard, and made her way to the cafeteria. The hallways were filled with the sounds of laughter and chatter, and the familiar smell of school lunches brought back memories of her own childhood. When she reached the cafeteria, she scanned the room for her son. It didn't take long to spot him sitting at a table with a few of his friends. She waved at him, and his face lit up with surprise and joy. He quickly excused himself from the table and ran over to her, giving her a tight hug. "Mom! What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice filled with excitement. She smiled and handed him the lunchbox. "I thought I'd surprise you today," she said, ruffling his hair. They sat down together at a quiet corner of the cafeteria, and she watched as he eagerly opened the lunchbox. His eyes widened with delight when he saw his favorite snacks inside. As they chatted and laughed, she couldn't help but notice something unusual. The other kids at the nearby tables were eating their lunches, but the food on their plates looked unappetizing. The portions were small, and the quality seemed poor. She saw a few kids pushing their food around, barely eating anything. At first, she thought it might just be her imagination, but the more she observed, the more concerned she became. She leaned over to her son and asked, "Is this what they serve you every day?" He nodded, his expression turning serious. "Yeah, it's not great," he admitted. "Most of us don't eat much of it. Sometimes I just wait until I get home to eat." Her heart sank as she listened to him. She had always assumed that the school provided decent meals for the students, but now she was seeing a different reality. She glanced around the cafeteria again, noticing the tired looks on some of the kids' faces. It was clear that many of them weren't getting the nutrition they needed. She felt a wave of anger rising within her. How could the school allow this? Didn't they care about the well-being of the students? She decided to take a closer look. After finishing their lunch, she told her son she would meet him after school and headed to the principal's office. The secretary greeted her politely and asked if she had an appointment. "No, but I need to speak with the principal urgently," she said, her voice firm. The secretary hesitated for a moment but eventually led her to the principal's office. The principal, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, looked up from his desk as she entered. "How can I help you?" he asked, his tone polite but distant. She took a deep breath and explained what she had seen in the cafeteria. "The food the kids are being served is unacceptable," she said. "It's not nutritious, and many of them aren't eating it. This is affecting their health and their ability to focus in class." The principal listened quietly, his expression unchanged. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I understand your concerns," he said, "but the school's budget is limited. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have." His response only fueled her frustration. "Doing the best you can," she repeated, her voice rising. "These are children we're talking about. They deserve better than this." The conversation went back and forth, but it was clear that the principal wasn't willing to take any immediate action. He promised to look into the matter, but she could tell it was just a way to placate her. As she left the office, she felt a mix of anger and helplessness. She knew she couldn't let this go, but she wasn't sure what to do next. On her way home, she couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. She thought about the kids in the cafeteria, the tired looks on their faces, and the poor quality of the food. She thought about her own son and how lucky he was to have a mother who could provide him with better meals. But what about the other kids? The ones who didn't have that option? She knew she had to do something, but she didn't know where to start. That evening, she sat down with her husband and told him everything. He listened carefully, his expression growing more serious as she spoke. "This is a big problem," he said when she finished. "But you can't tackle it alone. You need to get other parents involved. If enough people speak up, the school will have to take action." She nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. Maybe she couldn't change things on her own, but together with other parents, they could make a difference. She decided to start by reaching out to the parents of her son's friends. She sent out messages, explaining what she had seen and asking if they had noticed anything similar. The responses started coming in, and it was clear that she wasn't the only one concerned. One parent mentioned that their child often came home hungry, while another said their child had complained about the food multiple times. A few parents even shared stories of their kids getting sick after eating the school meals. The more she heard, the more determined she became. This wasn't just about her son anymore, it was about all the kids in the school. Over the next few days, she worked tirelessly to gather support. She created a group chat with the parents, organized meetings, and even started a petition demanding better food for the students. The response was overwhelming. Parents were eager to get involved, and soon, the group grew larger and more vocal. But not everyone was on board. Some parents felt that the school was doing its best and that complaining wouldn't solve anything. Others were afraid of causing trouble and preferred to stay silent. She understood their concerns, but she couldn't let that stop her. She knew that change wouldn't happen unless someone took the first step. As the days passed, the pressure on the school began to grow. The principal started receiving emails and calls from parents, and the local media even caught wind of the story. Reporters reached out to her for interviews, but she hesitated. She didn't want to make this about herself, she just wanted to see change. One evening, as she was preparing dinner, her phone buzzed with a message from the principal. He wanted to meet with her and a few other parents to discuss the issue. She felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were finally being heard. The meeting was scheduled for the next day, and she spent the night preparing her points. She knew this was her chance to make a difference, and she wasn't going to waste it. As she lay in bed, she thought about all the kids in the school and how much they deserved better. She thought about her son and the future she wanted for him. And she knew that no matter what, she couldn't give up. The next morning, the mother woke up with a sense of purpose. She had barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts about the upcoming meeting. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was both professional and approachable. She wanted to make a good impression, not just for herself but for all the parents and children she was representing. As she drove to the school, she rehearsed her points in her head. She knew the principal might try to downplay the issue or shift the blame, but she was determined to stay focused. She arrived early and waited outside the principal's office, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and determination. Soon, a few other parents joined her, some she had spoken to before, others she was meeting for the first time. They exchanged nervous smiles, united by a common goal. When the principal called them into his office, the atmosphere was tense. He greeted them politely but didn't offer any smiles. The parents took their seats, and the mother took a deep breath before speaking. She started by thanking the principal for agreeing to the meeting and then launched into her concerns. She spoke calmly but firmly, detailing what she had seen in the cafeteria and sharing the stories she had gathered from other parents. The other parents chimed in, adding their own experiences and concerns. One parent talked about how their child had lost weight since the school year started, while another mentioned how their child often complained of stomachaches after eating the school meals. The principal listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I understand your concerns," he said, his tone measured. But as I've mentioned before, the school's budget is limited. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have." The mother felt a surge of frustration but kept her composure. "We understand that budgets are tight," she replied, "but surely there must be a way to improve the quality of the food. These are children we're talking about, their health and well-being should be a priority." The principal nodded but didn't offer any concrete solutions. Instead, he suggested forming a committee to look into the issue and explore possible options. The parents exchanged glances, unsure if this was a genuine step forward or just a way to buy time. Still, they agreed to participate, knowing it was better than doing nothing. Over the next few weeks, the committee met regularly. The mother took on a leadership role, working tirelessly to research solutions and gather data. She reached out to nutritionists, local farmers, and even other schools to learn how they managed their meal programs. She discovered that some schools had successfully partnered with local organizations to provide healthier meals at lower costs, and she was determined to bring similar changes to her son's school. But progress was slow. The committee faced numerous obstacles, from bureaucratic red tape to resistance from certain staff members. Some teachers and administrators seemed indifferent, while others outright dismissed the parents' concerns. "Kids are picky eaters," one teacher said during a meeting. "They'll complain no matter what we serve." The mother bit her tongue, refusing to let such comments discourage her. Despite the challenges, she remained steadfast. She organized fundraisers, wrote letters to local businesses, and even started a social media campaign to raise awareness about the issue. The response from the community was overwhelming. People were outraged to learn about the poor quality of the school meals and eager to help. Donations started pouring in, and local media picked up the story, putting even more pressure on the school to take action. One evening, after a particularly long committee meeting, the mother sat down with her husband to update him on the progress. "It's exhausting," she admitted, rubbing her temples. "But I feel like we're finally making a difference." Her husband nodded, his expression proud but concerned. "You're doing an amazing job," he said. "But don't forget to take care of yourself too. You can't fight this battle if you're burned out." She knew he was right, but it was hard to slow down when there was so much at stake. Every time she felt like giving up, she thought about the kids in the cafeteria, their tired faces, their half-empty plates. She thought about her son and how lucky he was to have a mother who could fight for him. And she thought about all the other kids who didn't have that kind of support. It was enough to keep her going. As the weeks turned into months, the pressure on the school continued to grow. The principal, who had initially been resistant, began to show signs of relenting. He started attending committee meetings more regularly and even suggested a few ideas of his own. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Finally, after months of hard work, the committee presented a proposal to the school board. The plan included partnering with local farms to provide fresh produce, hiring a nutritionist to revamp the menu, and implementing a system to gather feedback from students and parents. The mother stood before the board, her voice steady but filled with emotion, as she explained why these changes were so important. "This isn't just about food," she said. "It's about giving our children the best possible chance to succeed. Healthy meals lead to healthier, happier kids who are better able to focus and learn. This is an investment in their future, and in ours." The room fell silent as she finished her speech. For a moment, she feared that all their efforts had been in vain. But then, one by one, the board members began to nod. The proposal was approved, and the room erupted into applause. The mother felt tears welling up in her eyes as she realized what they had accomplished. It wasn't just a victory for her son, it was a victory for every child in the school. As she left the meeting, she felt a sense of relief and pride. But she also knew that the real work was just beginning. Implementing the changes would take time and effort, and there would undoubtedly be more challenges along the way. Still, she was ready to face them. She had seen what could happen when people came together to fight for what was right, and she wasn't about to stop now. That night, as she tucked her son into bed, he looked up at her with a smile. "Mom," he said, "are you going to keep helping the school with the food?" She nodded, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Yes, sweetheart," she replied. "We're going to make sure you and your friends get the best meals possible." He grinned, his eyes shining with admiration. "You're the best, Mom." As she kissed him goodnight and turned off the light, she felt a warmth in her heart. She had started this journey for her son, but along the way, she had found a greater purpose. She had discovered the power of community, the importance of standing up for what you believe in, and the impact one person can have when they refuse to give up. And as she lay in bed that night, she knew that this was only the beginning. There were still battles to fight, changes to make, and lives to touch. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. Hopeful for her son, for the other kids at the school, and for the future they were building together. With the school board's approval, the mother felt a renewed sense of energy. The hard work was far from over, but knowing that the changes were officially in motion gave her hope. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as the committee worked tirelessly to implement the new meal program. Local farms were contacted, contracts were signed, and the school kitchen staff underwent training to prepare healthier, more nutritious meals. The mother took on a central role in coordinating these efforts. She spent hours on the phone with farmers, negotiated prices, and even volunteered to help in the cafeteria during the transition period. Her days were long and exhausting, but she didn't mind. Every time she saw a child smile or heard a parent express gratitude, she felt a surge of motivation to keep going. One of the biggest challenges was getting the students on board. Many of the kids were used to eating processed, sugary foods and were hesitant to try the new, healthier options. The mother knew that changing their habits wouldn't happen overnight, but she was determined to make the transition as smooth as possible. She came up with the idea of hosting a taste test day at the school. The event would allow students to sample the new menu items and provide feedback on what they liked or didn't like. She worked with the nutritionist to create a variety of dishes, from colorful salads to whole-grain pasta and fresh fruit smoothies. The goal was to make healthy eating fun and exciting. On the day of the event, the cafeteria was buzzing with excitement. The tables were decorated with bright tablecloths and signs promoting the new menu. The mother stood at the entrance, greeting the students as they walked in. She handed out small plates and encouraged them to try everything. At first, the kids were skeptical, but as they tasted the food, their expressions began to change. "This is actually good," one student exclaimed, reaching for a second helping of a quinoa salad. Another student, who had initially turned up his nose at the roasted vegetables, reluctantly took a bite and was pleasantly surprised. "It's not bad," he admitted, earning a laugh from the mother. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and the mother felt a sense of relief. The students' reactions proved that healthy food could be delicious and appealing. She knew there would still be some resistance, but this was a step in the right direction. As the new meal program rolled out, the mother continued to monitor its progress closely. She visited the school regularly, talking to students, teachers, and cafeteria staff to gather feedback. She also kept the parents informed through regular updates in the group chat, sharing photos of the new meals and highlighting the positive changes. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Some parents complained that the new meals were too expensive, while others argued that their children missed the old menu. The mother listened to their concerns and tried to address them as best as she could. She organized meetings to explain the benefits of the new program and reassured parents that the long-term benefits outweighed the short-term challenges. One evening, after a particularly difficult meeting, the mother felt a wave of frustration. She had poured so much time and energy into this project, and it was disheartening to see some people still resistant to change. She confided in her husband, who listened patiently before offering his advice. You can't please everyone, he said gently. But you're doing the right thing. Focus on the people who support you and the positive impact you're making. That's what matters. His words gave her the strength to keep going. She reminded herself why she had started this journey in the first place, to ensure that every child in the school had access to healthy, nutritious meals. She couldn't let a few negative voices derail her mission. Over time, the resistance began to fade. As parents saw the positive changes in their children, more energy, better focus, fewer complaints about stomachaches, they started to come around. The mother received messages of gratitude from parents who had initially been skeptical, thanking her for her dedication and hard work. The school staff also began to notice a difference. Teachers reported that their students were more attentive in class, and the cafeteria staff appreciated the support they received during the transition. Even the principal, who had been so resistant at first, acknowledged the success of the new program. "You've done something remarkable here," he told the mother during one of their meetings. "I have to admit, I was skeptical at first, but you've proven me wrong. This is exactly what our school needed." His words meant a lot to her, but she knew the real reward was seeing the impact on the students. One day, as she was helping out in the cafeteria, she noticed a group of kids laughing and chatting as they ate their meals. Their plates were full of colorful, nutritious food, and they looked happy and healthy. It was a stark contrast to the scene she had witnessed months ago, and it filled her with pride. As the school year drew to a close, the mother reflected on everything she had accomplished. What had started as a simple act of love for her son had turned into a movement that had transformed the entire school. She had faced countless challenges along the way, but she had never given up. And now, she was reaping the rewards of her hard work. But she also knew that her work wasn't done. There were still improvements to be made, and she was determined to keep pushing for progress. She started brainstorming ideas for the next school year, from expanding the meal program to introducing cooking classes for students. She wanted to create a culture of healthy eating that would last for years to come. One evening, as she was going through her notes, her son walked into the room. He had been quieter than usual lately, and she wondered if something was on his mind. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, putting down her pen. "Is everything okay?" He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Mom," he said, "I just wanted to say thank you. For everything you've done for me and my friends. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've made such a big difference." His words brought tears to her eyes. She pulled him into a hug, holding him tightly. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered. "That means the world to me." As she held her son, she realized that this was what it was all about, not just the meals or the changes, but the love and care she had poured into making the world a better place for him and his friends. It had been a long and difficult journey, but it had been worth it. And as she looked ahead to the future, she knew that she would continue to fight for what was right, not just for her son, but for every child who deserved a chance to thrive. Because in the end, that was what being a mother was all about, doing whatever it took to give your child the best possible start in life. As the new school year approached, the mother felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The success of the meal program had been a turning point, but she knew there was still more work to be done. She wanted to build on the momentum they had created and ensure that the changes they had made would have a lasting impact. One of her new goals was to involve the students more directly in the meal program. She believed that if the kids felt a sense of ownership over the food they were eating, they would be more likely to embrace healthy habits. With this in mind, she proposed the idea of a student nutrition council to the principal. The council would be made up of students from different grades who would work with the nutritionist and cafeteria staff to plan menus, organize events, and promote healthy eating. The principal was initially hesitant, worried that it might be too much responsibility for the students. But the mother was persistent, arguing that it would be a valuable learning experience for them. After some discussion, he agreed to give it a try. The first step was to recruit members for the council. The mother worked with the teachers to identify students who showed an interest in food, health, or leadership. She also made an announcement during the school assembly, encouraging students to apply. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of kids expressed interest, and the mother was thrilled to see their enthusiasm. The first meeting of the Student Nutrition Council was held in the school library. The mother stood at the front of the room, looking out at the group of eager faces. She explained the purpose of the council and what they hoped to achieve. "This is your chance to make a real difference," she told them. "You'll have a say in what goes on your plates, and you'll help spread the message about healthy eating to your classmates." The students were excited to get started. They brainstormed ideas for new menu items, discussed ways to make the cafeteria more inviting, and even came up with a plan for a school-wide, healthy eating week. The mother was impressed by their creativity and passion. It was clear that they were ready to take on the challenge. One of the council members, a bright and outgoing sixth grader, suggested organizing a cooking competition. "We could have teams of students create their own healthy recipes," she explained. "And then we could have a taste test to see which one is the best." The other students loved the idea, and the mother agreed to help them make it happen. The cooking competition quickly became the talk of the school. Teams of students signed up, and the cafeteria staff offered to help with the preparations. The mother reached out to local businesses for donations of ingredients and prizes, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. Even the local newspaper got wind of the event and offered to cover it. On the day of the competition, the cafeteria was transformed into a bustling kitchen. Teams of students worked together to chop, stir, and taste their creations, while the mother and the nutritionist moved from table to table, offering guidance and encouragement. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and excitement. When the time came for the taste test, the judges, made up of teachers, parents, and even the principal, had a tough time deciding on a winner. Each dish was unique and delicious, showcasing the students' creativity and understanding of healthy eating. In the end, the winning team was awarded a trophy and a gift certificate to a local grocery store, but everyone who participated left feeling like a winner. The success of the cooking competition inspired the mother to take things a step further. She proposed the idea of a school garden, where students could grow their own fruits and vegetables. The garden would not only provide fresh produce for the cafeteria but also teach the kids about where their food comes from and the importance of sustainability. The principal was initially skeptical, worried about the cost and maintenance of the garden. But the mother had done her research and presented a detailed plan, including a budget and a list of volunteers who were willing to help. She also pointed out that the garden could be used as a teaching tool, integrating lessons about science, math, and environmental stewardship. After some discussion, the principal agreed to give the garden a try. The mother worked with the students and volunteers to clear a plot of land behind the school and prepare it for planting. They built raised beds, installed a compost bin, and even set up a rainwater collection system. The students were involved every step of the way, learning valuable skills and taking pride in their work. When the first seeds were planted, the mother felt a sense of accomplishment. She knew that the garden was more than just a source of food, it was a symbol of the community's commitment to health and sustainability. She imagined the students harvesting their first crop, tasting the fruits of their labor, and feeling a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. But the garden wasn't the only project the mother had in mind. She also wanted to address the issue of food waste in the cafeteria. Despite the improvements to the meal program, there was still a significant amount of food being thrown away each day. She proposed the idea of a share table, where students could place uneaten food items for others to take. Any leftover food would be donated to a local food bank. The idea was met with enthusiasm from the students and staff. The share table was set up in the cafeteria, and the mother was pleased to see how quickly the kids embraced it. They started bringing in extra snacks from home to share, and the amount of food waste decreased significantly. The mother even organized a field trip to the food bank, where the students could see firsthand how their efforts were making a difference in the community. As the school year progressed, the mother continued to push for new initiatives and improvements. She organized workshops for parents on healthy meal planning, partnered with local chefs to offer cooking classes, and even started a blog to share recipes and tips for healthy living. Her passion and dedication inspired others to get involved, and the school became a hub of activity and innovation. But despite all the progress, the mother never lost sight of why she had started this journey in the first place. It wasn't about accolades or recognition, it was about the kids. Every time she saw a student try a new vegetable, every time she heard a parent talk about how their child's eating habits had improved, she felt a sense of fulfillment. One day, as she was helping out in the cafeteria, she noticed a group of kids gathered around the share table. They were laughing and chatting as they exchanged snacks, and the mother couldn't help but smile. It was a small moment, but it reminded her of how far they had come. As she looked around the cafeteria, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She was grateful for the support of the parents, the dedication of the staff, and the enthusiasm of the students. But most of all, she was grateful for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of so many children. And as she thought about the future, she knew that this was just the beginning. There were still challenges to face and goals to achieve, but she was ready to face them head-on. Because she knew that when people came together with a shared purpose, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. The school garden quickly became a beloved feature of the campus. What started as a small plot of land soon flourished into a vibrant space filled with rows of lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and herbs. The students took great pride in tending to the garden, watering the plants, pulling weeds, and watching their hard work grow into something tangible. The mother often joined them, her hands dirty from digging in the soil, her heart full as she watched the kids light up with excitement over each new sprout. One sunny afternoon, the mother stood in the garden with a group of students, showing them how to harvest the first batch of ripe cherry tomatoes. The kids eagerly plucked the bright red fruits, popping a few into their mouths as they worked. "These are so sweet," one student exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. The mother smiled, pleased to see the kids enjoying the fruits of their labor. "This is what real food tastes like," she said. "When you grow it yourself, it's even better." The garden wasn't just a source of fresh produce, it became a living classroom. Teachers began incorporating it into their lessons, using it to teach students about biology, ecology, and even math. The mother worked with the staff to develop a curriculum that connected the garden to the classroom, making learning more hands-on and engaging. Students measured the growth of plants, studied the life cycle of butterflies, and even calculated the cost of growing their own food versus buying it from a store. The success of the garden inspired the mother to think bigger. She started dreaming of a farm-to-school program, where the majority of the cafeteria's ingredients would come from local farms and the school garden. She knew it would be a massive undertaking, but she was determined to make it happen. She began reaching out to local farmers, inviting them to tour the school and see the impact of the meal program. Many of them were impressed by what they saw and eager to get involved. One farmer, in particular, stood out. He was a third-generation farmer who had been struggling to keep his family's farm afloat. When the mother approached him with the idea of partnering with the school, he was hesitant at first. "I've never worked with a school before," he admitted. "I'm not sure how it would work." But the mother was persistent. She explained how the partnership could benefit both the school and his farm, providing him with a steady source of income while giving the students access to fresh, locally grown food. After several meetings and a lot of planning, the farmer agreed to give it a try. The mother worked with him to develop a contract that outlined the terms of the partnership, including the types of produce he would supply and the delivery schedule. She also helped him navigate the school's procurement process, which could be daunting for someone unfamiliar with it. The first delivery of produce from the farm was a milestone moment. The mother stood in the cafeteria with the farmer, the principal, and a group of students as the boxes of fresh vegetables were unloaded. The kids were thrilled to see the colorful array of carrots, bell peppers, and zucchini, and the mother felt a surge of pride. "This is just the beginning," she told them. "Soon, we'll be serving meals made with food grown right here in our community." The farm-to-school program was a hit. The students loved the fresh, flavorful meals, and the teachers noticed a positive change in their energy and focus. The mother received messages from parents thanking her for the program and sharing stories of how their kids were now asking for vegetables at home. Even the cafeteria staff, who had initially been skeptical, embraced the changes and took pride in preparing meals with locally sourced ingredients. But the mother didn't stop there. She wanted to ensure that the program was sustainable and could continue to grow. She applied for grants to fund the expansion of the school garden and the farm-to-school program, writing detailed proposals that highlighted the impact it was having on the students and the community. Her hard work paid off when the school received a substantial grant from a local foundation, allowing them to purchase new equipment for the garden and hire a part-time garden coordinator. The grant also provided funding for a series of workshops and events aimed at educating the community about healthy eating and sustainable agriculture. The mother organized a farm-to-table dinner, where students, parents, and community members came together to enjoy a meal made with ingredients from the school garden and local farms. The event was a huge success, raising awareness and funds for the program while bringing people together in celebration of good food and community spirit. As the program continued to grow, the mother began to receive recognition for her efforts. She was invited to speak at conferences and events, sharing her story and inspiring others to take action in their own communities. But despite the accolades, she remained humble and focused on her mission. "This isn't about me," she often said. "It's about the kids and the future we're building for them." One of the most rewarding moments came when her son's class visited the garden for a lesson on composting. The mother watched as her son proudly explained the process to his classmates, his face beaming with confidence. "You see," he said, holding up a handful of rich, dark compost, "this is what happens when we recycle our food scraps. It turns into something that helps new plants grow." The mother felt a lump in her throat as she listened to him. She realized that he wasn't just learning about gardening, he was learning about responsibility, sustainability, and the power of small actions to create big change. The garden and the farm-to-school program became a source of pride for the entire community. Local businesses started getting involved, donating supplies and sponsoring events. The school became a model for other schools in the district, and the mother was often asked to share her expertise with educators and administrators who wanted to replicate their success. But the mother knew that there was still more work to be done. She started thinking about how to expand the program to include more schools and reach more students. She began collaborating with other parents and community leaders to develop a district-wide initiative that would bring fresh, healthy meals to every school in the area. It was an ambitious goal, but she was determined to make it happen. As she looked back on everything they had accomplished, the mother felt a deep sense of gratitude. She was grateful for the support of the parents, the dedication of the staff, and the enthusiasm of the students. But most of all, she was grateful for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of so many children. And as she looked ahead to the future, she knew that this was just the beginning. There were still challenges to face and goals to achieve, but she was ready to face them head-on. Because she knew that when people came together with a shared purpose, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. The success of the farm-to-school program and the school garden had transformed the school into a hub of innovation and community engagement. But the mother's vision didn't stop there. She wanted to ensure that the program could grow and reach even more students. Her next goal was to expand the initiative to other schools in the district, creating a ripple effect that would benefit children across the community. She started by reaching out to parents and administrators at neighboring schools, sharing her story and the impact the program had made. Many were intrigued but hesitant, unsure if they could replicate the same success. The mother understood their concerns, she had faced similar doubts at the beginning of her journey. But she was determined to show them that it was possible. To make her case, she organized a school food summit, inviting parents, teachers, and administrators from across the district to tour her son's school and learn about the program. The event was a chance to showcase the garden, the farm-to-school partnerships, and the positive changes they had brought about. The mother worked tirelessly to prepare, creating presentations, organizing demonstrations, and even arranging for the students to share their experiences. On the day of the summit, the school was buzzing with activity. Visitors were greeted by, "We need to find a way to bring this to every school in the district." The mother was thrilled by the offer and worked with him to develop a proposal for district-wide funding. It was a long and complex process, but she was determined to see it through. While the mother was focused on expanding the program, she also made time to celebrate the small victories along the way. One of her favorite moments came during a visit to the small elementary school she had helped. The students had just harvested their first crop of lettuce, and they were eager to show it off. The mother watched as they proudly presented their bounty, their faces beaming with pride. It was a reminder of why she had started this journey in the first place, to give children the opportunity to thrive. At home, the mother's son continued to be her biggest supporter. He often helped her with presentations and events, sharing his own experiences with the program. One evening, as they were preparing for a workshop, he turned to her and said, "Mom, I'm really proud of you. You're changing so many lives." His words brought tears to her eyes, and she pulled him into a hug. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said. "That means the world to me." As the school year came to a close, the mother reflected on everything they had accomplished. What had started as a simple act of love for her son had grown into a movement that was transforming the entire community. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support she had received and the impact they had made together. But she also knew that there was still more work to be done. The district-wide funding proposal was still in progress, and she was determined to see it through. She also wanted to explore new ways to expand the program, such as partnering with local restaurants or creating a mobile farmers market that could serve schools in remote areas. As she looked ahead to the future, the mother felt a sense of hope and determination. She knew that the journey would be long and challenging, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. Because she knew that when people came together with a shared purpose, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. And as she tucked her son into bed that night, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had started this journey for him, but along the way, she had discovered a greater purpose. She had found the power of community, the importance of standing up for what you believe in, and the impact one person can have when they refuse to give up. The district-wide funding proposal was finally approved, marking a major milestone in the mother's journey. The news came as a wave of relief and excitement, not just for her but for the entire community. The funding would allow the farm-to-school program to expand to every school in the district, ensuring that all students had access to fresh, healthy meals. It was a victory that had taken months of hard work, countless meetings, and unwavering determination, but it was worth every moment. The mother was invited to speak at a press conference announcing the funding. As she stood at the podium, surrounded by local leaders, farmers, and educators, she felt a surge of pride. She looked out at the crowd, her eyes landing on her son, who was sitting in the front row, beaming with pride. "This is a victory for all of us," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's proof that when we come together as a community, we can create real change. But this is just the beginning. There's still so much more we can do." Her words were met with applause, and the mother felt a renewed sense of purpose. The funding was a significant step forward, but she knew that the real work was just beginning. Over the next few months, she worked closely with district officials to implement the program in each school. It was a massive undertaking, requiring careful planning and coordination, but the mother was determined to ensure its success. One of the first schools to benefit from the funding was a middle school in a rural part of the district. The mother visited the school to help them get started, working with the staff to set up a garden and connect with local farmers. The students were eager to get involved, and the mother was impressed by their enthusiasm. "This is going to be amazing," one student told her as they planted the first seeds. "I can't wait to see what we grow." The mother also worked to address the unique challenges each school faced. Some schools had limited space for gardens, so she helped them explore creative solutions, such as vertical gardens or container gardening. Others struggled with limited resources, so she connected them with grants and community partners. Her ability to adapt and find solutions inspired everyone she worked with, and the program continued to grow. As the program expanded, the mother began to see its impact on a larger scale. Local farmers were thriving, thanks to the steady demand from schools, and families were becoming more aware of the importance of healthy eating. The program even caught the attention of state policymakers, who invited the mother to speak at a conference about the benefits of farm-to-school initiatives. The conference was a turning point. The mother stood before a room full of educators, policymakers, and community leaders, sharing her story and the impact the program had made. She talked about the students who had discovered a love for gardening, the parents who had learned to cook healthier meals, and the farmers who had found new markets for their produce. Her passion and dedication were evident, and her words inspired many in the room to take action. After the conference, the mother was approached by a state senator who was eager to support the program. "What you've done is incredible," he said. "We need to find a way to bring this to every school in the state." The mother was thrilled by the offer and worked with him to develop a proposal for statewide funding. It was a long and complex process, but she was determined to see it through. While the mother was focused on expanding the program, she also made time to celebrate the small victories along the way. One of her favorite moments came during a visit to the rural middle school she had helped. The students had just harvested their first crop of carrots, and they were eager to show it off. The mother watched as they proudly presented their bounty, their faces beaming with pride. It was a reminder of why she had started this journey in the first place, to give children the opportunity to thrive. At home, the mother's son continued to be her biggest supporter. He often helped her with presentations and events, sharing his own experiences with the program. One evening, as they were preparing for a workshop, he turned to her and said, "Mom, I'm really proud of you. You're changing so many lives." His words brought tears to her eyes, and she pulled him into a hug. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said. "That means the world to me." As the school year came to a close, the mother reflected on everything they had accomplished. What had started as a simple act of love for her son had grown into a movement that was transforming the entire community. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support she had received and the impact they had made together. But she also knew that there was still more work to be done. The statewide funding proposal was still in progress, and she was determined to see it through. She also wanted to explore new ways to expand the program, such as partnering with local restaurants or creating a mobile farmers market that could serve schools in remote areas. As she looked ahead to the future, the mother felt a sense of hope and determination. She knew that the journey would be long and challenging, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. Because she knew that when people came together with a shared purpose, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. And as she tucked her son into bed that night, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had started this journey for him, but along the way, she had discovered a greater purpose. She had found the power of community, the importance of standing up for what you believe in, and the impact one person can have when they refuse to give up. The statewide funding proposal was finally approved, marking the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. The mother stood at the center of a growing movement that had transformed not just her son's school, but an entire district, and now, an entire state. The program had become a model for others, proving that with passion, persistence, and community support, real change was possible. The announcement of the state funding was celebrated with a large event at the state capitol. The mother was invited to speak, and as she stood at the podium, she looked out at the crowd of policymakers, educators, farmers, and parents. Her son was there too, sitting in the front row, his face glowing with pride. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "This moment is not just about me," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's about all of us, parents, teachers, farmers, and students, who believed in the power of good food to change lives. It's about the kids who planted their first seeds and watched them grow. It's about the parents who learned to cook healthier meals. It's about the farmers who found new ways to thrive. This is a victory for everyone who believes that every child deserves a chance to grow up healthy and strong." The crowd erupted into applause, and the mother felt a wave of gratitude. She knew that this moment was the result of countless hours of work, setbacks, and small victories. But it was also a reminder that the journey wasn't over. There was still more to do, more lives to touch, and more communities to inspire. With the state funding in place, the mother worked tirelessly to ensure the program's success. She traveled across the state, visiting schools, meeting with administrators, and helping them set up their own farm-to-school programs. Each school had its own unique challenges, but the mother approached each one with the same determination and creativity that had fueled her from the beginning. One of the most rewarding parts of her work was seeing the impact on the students. In one rural school, she watched as a group of kids harvested their first crop of potatoes. Their faces lit up with excitement as they dug into the soil, pulling out the golden treasures. "I've never seen potatoes like this before," one student exclaimed, holding up a particularly large one. The mother smiled, knowing that this moment would stay with them for the rest of their lives. In another school, she helped set up a cooking class where students learned to prepare meals using ingredients from their garden. The mother loved watching the kids chop vegetables, stir pots, and taste their creations. "This is so much fun," one student said, grinning as he stirred a pot of soup. "I can't wait to make this at home for my family." The program also had a profound impact on the farmers. One farmer, who had struggled to keep his family's farm afloat, told the mother that the program had changed his life. "You've given me hope," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Not just for my farm, but for the future of our community." His words touched her deeply, reminding her of the ripple effect her work was having. As the program continued to grow, the mother began to receive national recognition for her efforts. She was invited to speak at conferences, featured in magazines, and even asked to advise policymakers on nutrition and education. But despite the accolades, she remained humble and focused on her mission. "This isn't about me," she often said. "It's about the kids and the future we're building for them." At home, her son continued to be her biggest supporter. He often accompanied her on her travels, sharing his own experiences with the program. One evening, as they were driving home from a school visit, he turned to her and said, "Mom, I'm so proud of you. You've done so much for so many people." His words brought tears to her eyes, and she reached over to squeeze his hand. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said. "That means everything to me." As the years passed, the mother's work became a legacy. The program she had started in her son's school had grown into a statewide initiative that was transforming the lives of thousands of children. But for the mother, the greatest reward was seeing the impact on her own son. He had grown into a confident, compassionate young man who shared her passion for healthy living and community service. He often talked about following in her footsteps, and the mother couldn't have been prouder. One day, as they were working together in the school garden, her son turned to her and said, "Mom, do you remember when you first came to my school for lunch? That was the day everything changed." The mother smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I remember," she said. "That was the day I realized how much we could accomplish if we just cared enough to try." As she looked around the garden, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The rows of vegetables, the laughter of the students, the sense of community, it was all a testament to the power of one person's determination to make a difference. She knew that there would always be more work to do, more challenges to face, and more lives to touch. But she was ready for whatever came next. Because she had learned that when you care deeply about something, when you're willing to fight for what's right, and when you bring people together with a shared purpose, there's no limit to what you can achieve. And as she stood there, surrounded by the fruits of her labor, she knew that this was just the beginning.